Welcome to Soul Sessions, conversations to inspire your journey in life. I'm your host, Susan Kiskis.
And I'm Jose Johnson.
And I'm Ricky Friedman.
And today's topic is living in the afterlife. And we'll be introducing our guest today in just a few moments. But first, this is such a huge topic. And it's one that I think can really bring a lot of healing to people's lives. And also, there's so many questions around this particular topic.
Yes,
So
it's going to be really fascinating.
It is. Like, Ricky, what are you hoping to get out of this topic today?
I feel very connected already, and I really have a strong, deep knowing from the losses that I've experienced in my personal life that I'm still connected always, and I just I want to share that truth with everyone else.
Really good. And how about you, for Jose?
I'm just interested to hear how this is going to progress. I mean, it is a fascinating topic, and you know, the more we start to go down the rabbit hole of what exists beyond our perceptions in this reality, it's just it's phenomenal, and I'm just looking forward to hearing what occurs today.
So if you remember, I was telling you both that there were certain things in my childhood that were kind of like watered to grow, and there was other things that were kind of like put out, right? This was one actually topic that I would say probably for the most part was watered a little bit to nurture. And so even though my family was Catholic, there was a lot of like folk, I guess, conversation that was believed from my mother's roots from Albania and Yugoslavia. And so one was being able to connect with those on the other side. And mostly the thought was that the women in my mother's family had these gifts of intuition and the ability to communicate through dreams. And so I remember sitting in my room when I was a child, or my mother would tell me, and then I would be talking to beings in the room. And but when I was 15 maybe, there was someone in my high school who passed away. And I was sitting in my bedroom and I was kind of crying about this, and in the corner of my room he was there. And it was almost as if he was like peeking down, you know, and then he started saying some things, and it was very normal for that to happen. It's kind of like, oh, hey, okay, but you know, moving on. So it's always been a topic that's very much been part of my world. So I don't have a lot of questions, but I think most people who haven't had those experiences really do have the questions of, you know, how is this possible? How do I develop those skills? You know, there's that longing that we feel when people that we love leave us, you know, and the desire, the deep desire to have that connection with them, yeah, and to continue that.
This is a topic, this is very near and dear to my heart because I do a workshop called From Grief to Gratitude based on my own personal experiences. But it's a topic that we don't talk about a lot in our culture. So we want to have that opportunity to open the discussion for everyone, to just stay open to the possibilities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah, I think that from like the scientific perspective, you know, and we worry sometimes about you know, having to have the hard evidence and things like that, and there still is no answers to what is the soul, and who are we really. We know that we're this physical corporal shell, but there's something in us. There's something that changes when we go from that moment of being alive to no longer being here, and what is it that changes, and where does it go? And science has been able to answer the fact that, you know, energy, you know, we're all made of energy, and energy is neither created or destroyed. It just changes from state to state. So the question is, where does the soul go? What does it change into? So
To me, the physical body is the outfit that we're wearing in the moment. You know, it starts out this big, and it might be this big, and end up this big, but this isn't who we are.
and sometimes called the meat suit.
Yeah, and I think that my personal evolution with why I'm able to see, you know, those from the other side, or even why other people can, has really grown and changed over the course of my lifetime. And I think it's because I really always want those scientific answers, you know, and I've gone everywhere from that there is this communication ability we have as a species that we're able to really kind of tap into each other, and that's part of it. You know, that there's various dimensions, you know, that science, you know, continues to discover, and you can only see really what's in your dimension, but maybe there's an opportunity. This is a glimmer into something else. And I'm really, really curious to find out what today's guest is actually thinks about all this.
And also to just keep an open mind that not everyone is a seer, but people can perceive energy in lots of different ways.
Exactly.
You know, I'm more of a feeler.
Yeah.
So there's intuition is your personal need.
And I think that's great, yeah, to also to talk about today, because there's the ability to see, to hear, to feel, to smell, right? To know, yeah. So.
Well, I am very excited to introduce our guest for today, Michelle Livingston. She's an internationally known visionary and psychic medium. She's been clairvoyant since a very early age, and she has the incredible ability to see and communicate with departed loved ones. She's also an author of 6 books, which she is going to share with us today. So welcome, Michelle. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Yeah, so what would you like to share with us about the evolution of the acknowledgement of this gift? Because you've had it since a very early age.
I've had it since I was small, and I actually started doing artwork when I was 3. So the artwork that led into me getting a master's degree for art education, and then I taught art for 10 years inner city in Harrisburg, which led into different art careers. And even though my great-grandmother was a visionary, actually, she was in central Pennsylvania. Sometimes the gift comes down. I think we are all intuitive, inner knowing. I think we all have a sense of energy around us. And of course, that's what you do with the Reiki. But my great-grandmother was a Dunker, which is a plain person, and they're very similar to the Quaker, Amish, or Mennonite religion. And so she was in the 1800s doing this kind of work. Wow. And then it skipped a generation, and my mother was very open. She had precognition dreams, pre-knowing dreams. So I was a menopause baby, and I had older parents. My dad was 50 when I was born. I was his only child. My mother was 43, and I was unexpected, of course. But they were very nurturing. And so with older parents, it's like the elders in a tribe. You know, you just feel very safe and nurtured. And I would see things, and my mother would say, well, tell me more. So she'd keep a journal, and she'd write down the things that I was experiencing. I think at the formative years, 1 to 5, children are very connected to the spirit realms because the soul hasn't been in the body very long. And then from about 6 on, we go into a different frequency. And we go to school, and we have to, sometimes it's conscious, sometimes it's unconscious, to block off the invisible world. So I was still seeing things, but she presented the notebook to me when I was 12, and I didn't remember anything. You know, children just don't, but they talk to invisible playmates, and the spirit realms are very much alive.
Yeah, it's
around
beautiful that that was encouraged in your home,
Yes.
because that could have made the whole difference.
It did make the whole difference. So 30 years ago, when it came full force with symbols and seeing souls and everything, I wasn't afraid of it. But 30 years ago, it wasn't as out there as it is now. And you know what I mean, with the internet and all the people that are involved in this kind of work, it's much more pleasurable to do the work and to be received and have it open now than 30 years ago. I was just starting out, and actually had an art gallery and was doing readings in the back of my art gallery for people. There's a little back door, and they'd sneak in, and I have an art gallery in the front. But it's a whole different world now.
It is, and I really respect the sharing Reiki, which for some people feels a little out there. It's not for me at all. But how you bring this also in a grounded way to grounded audiences, you know, at women's conferences and on social media, and
And I do believe in, I'm an ordained minister as well, so I do believe in protective prayer. And that's what we do at seminars. We have questions and answers, which people are curious. And they really don't know what the other dimensions are about, or the other frequencies are about. So we talk about that. Then I go around to different people as I'm led, and do some little readings, I call them mini readings. And then we take a break, and then part two, we introduce my books, and then we do more readings. So it's a wonderful afternoon.
Yes, yeah, I've experienced that. Yeah.
We call it Afterlife in the Afternoon. That was but yeah, so it's been quite a journey.
Yes. So can you share with us a little bit about what it's like in the afterlife, what you share in your seminars? That's a whole new world for most people.
Yes, it is, Ricky. So I'm working on my 7th book. My 6th book, Living in the Afterlife, is on the table here. And 33 souls came to me over a course of 4 years, and they told me, it started with my mother actually, they told me what heaven was like, which is very unusual. But my mother was an English teacher, so I knew it'd be a good book, because she came to me and said, "You're going to write a book on heaven." And I thought, oh, you got to be kidding me. And she said, "I'll help you." She passed in 1993. And she said, "I'll help you through it, and I'd like to be the first one to open this book up." And so she told me that she teaches in heaven, and that we know that heaven is a frequency, like radio frequencies or television waves. And the medium is the conduit that plugs in and tunes into the higher frequency, which we call heaven. Some people call it the other side. So I have a prayer room, and it's on, and you would appreciate this, a ley line of energy. There is energy portals. And I sat in the chair, I did my prayer time, my protective prayer time, and there was an empty chair across from me. And I would look up, because I'm an artist and visionary, I would actually see who was sitting there. And so my mother appeared, and I wrote, and this was all actually automatic writing. I didn't speak into a tape player. Then clients who had passed, God bless them, started to come through. One was a marine biologist, and he says that he, in that state, is able to enter, this is interesting, crustaceans and different marine life on the earth plane briefly to get their consciousness of how they're feeling and what they're doing. Wow. So every one of the 33 souls brought a different spin to it. Wow. There was one that was a psychologist, one soul that I knew, and her name was Carol. You maybe have met her, but anyhow, she's passed now. But she brought through information about rehabilitation centers. Wow. And the life review. So as far as I have perceived from this book, Living in the Afterlife, we're not judged, of course, by an angry creator. Yeah. We objectively look over our lives, and a hologram is kind of formed around us, and we observe our life from the first breath to the last. We're basically asked how, what do you have to show me for your life? Have you fulfilled your soul purpose and your soul lessons? And how have you loved? And it's about unity and love. And so it's interesting. And then I had a couple celebrities, which I didn't put their names in. One was a very well-known singer. And she talked about tonal frequencies actually in heaven being able to step in to musical frequencies and to harmonize with other souls. Humming is important. Now remember, we don't have the physical body, but as you said, Jose, the soul's energy, and you can never destroy energy. It just takes different forms. But the soul, because it's energy, retains a personality and a mind and a memory bank. So many souls that incarnate have honed their skills, whether it's music, arts, literature, from the next world, and have brought it in. So you've heard about child prodigies that write, and Mozart and create. Yes, child prodigies. So yeah, so there's so much to it. There's so many things that we can do. And our work is never done. We're ever evolving, we're ever learning and progressing. And so when I said about the rehab centers, there is, and you were mentioning religion before we got started in Catholicism. And I'm not Catholic, but there's a purgatory, supposedly, in that belief system where you go till you figure out, are you up, are you down, if you know what I'm trying to say. So there is something called the gray area. Someone that possibly, and it's not for all souls, but certain ones that have maybe overdosed, or certain ones that have murdered, or done some heinous crime, they're not quite ready to get to the light. They're kind of wandering, sometimes in this gray area. Angels will come down to retrieve them so they can get to their life review. Sometimes they say, no, I don't want to go. But we all, for soul growth, need to go through the review, which is very, very interesting. So there are rehab stations in heaven where counselors and psychiatrists who have honed this on earth can help souls, of course. Now this is all energy. Right. And as you said, Ricky, we have the physical body, which I call the car, and the soul's the driver. Right. So that's what lives on. The driver's what lives on. And it's a myriad of things to do, to study, to teach, to learn, and to hone, to bring forward into this lifetime.
This is so great to hear. The one experience that I have is that sometimes when people cross over, they'll have a come through initially, I'm okay, everything's fine, I'm all full of love, and then they disappear for a while. And it's sometimes, I found the fastest was like 3 months that they would come back. But usually it's a longer period of time. But those who've had a lot of suffering, it seems like it's 6 months, 12 months before they can make an appearance again. And I remember asking and trying to find out, like, why is that? And I was shown at one point almost like a classroom, like that there was learning and healing to be done. And once they went through that whole process, then they were able to come back and see their family again. But they needed to do that healing up in there before they came back again to say, hey. So it's fascinating that you're talking about those like rehabilitation areas. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're usually closest a few weeks after they pass, because they're adjusting, but some of them still have kind of one foot here, and then they're going up, of course. And it's interesting that you would say that, Susan.
Is it based on at all how much the person here on Earth needs that?
It is, and that's why there's so many signs, butterflies like in your room, or cardinals, or there's 10 ways that they can communicate. But by the time they get to the light and they go through their life review, and then they're asked, how do you want to progress? Do you want to rest? And the other thing is, we know that thought plus energy equals form. Yeah. So we can create, from this book, our own heavens. Mm-hmm. If we loved gardening, with God's will, and our angels and so on, we create the most heavenly garden. When they came through, they were in different environments. My uncle loved to go fishing. And even though it's something you can't physically do, if you create a beautiful stream and the sunlight and everything, that's heaven to him. Wow. So even though we're in another dimension, a higher frequency, we each have our own kind of individual heavens. As we experience Earth in a different way, and we all have our different journeys here on Earth, even though it's unified in heaven in that frequency, we still are not on our own, but doing our own thing and surrounded with our own environment. So there's a whole chapter on environments. That's another exciting thing. It really is.
And I'm always fascinated too by the jobs that they have on the other side, because it is a voluntary choice to have a job, and they have to get training, So like my experience is a lot of times they'll go become what we would call like a guardian angel, or there's another term I'm missing right now. Spirit guide. They would go then, and then they pick the soul. They pick who they're going to be there for, but they have to go through training for it.
Yes, they do. I'm so glad you mentioned it too, because there's a chapter on spirit guide training, and not many, when we get over, I found that maybe 1 or 2 we choose to watch over or protect. So if we're a grandmother that passed, she may want to oversee her granddaughter, or there's an infant with her in a soul group that she's getting ready to send down, and she wants to be a spirit guide of. So there are soul groups in heaven, and this is getting a little off, but we can incarnate with some of our soul groups. So, you know, some people you feel like you've known all your life. You meet them and I know you, I know who you are. And then other times we have trials throughout life, and that's because we're trying to learn certain concepts, like whether it's patience or tolerance of another. So those are all soul lessons. But yes, we can train to be spirit guides.
So your new book is talking about animals. So it's going to be called
Oh, yes.
Inspirational Creatures, right?
This is Inspirational Creatures, Extraordinary Animal Encounters.
So I think that's one thing too, that when people know about living in the afterlife, they will ask if they are, you know, they've had dogs or cats or the pets. So you're like, what about my beloved, you know, Lucky or Duke? And so I would like for you, if it's okay, Michelle, to share a little bit more about what you've experienced with our
Oh,
pets.
yes. Animals are, as we know, sentient feeling beings. And when they're upset, they don't eat, or when we leave many times, you know, they can become ill. Yeah, there's a consciousness of what I've learned. Now, there's different takes on this depending on what part of the world you're in. Some cultures believe that we can incarnate into animal bodies, which I'm not quite sure of. But as far as I know, there's more of a sea of consciousness of canine, which would be dog. And a wolf, for example, could be, he's or she's in the canine energy, but can also be a little lap dog. Or the feline could be a tiger or a little pussycat. Equine could be donkey or a racehorse. So usually when we love and befriend an animal, they go into the consciousness, but they can also pull out and come back with us again and again. So these are stories about animals as teachers. What have they taught us? Of course, unconditional love is usually number one with animals. How have they healed us? There's an example in here about a teenager, God bless her. She had debilitating diseases one after another. She had to have her thyroid removed, and she missed junior and senior high school. And she and her mother were allergic to any types of animals. They did testing, but one animal that they weren't allergic to was the gecko, because of the no fur. So she found a gecko and named Emoji, and it was the only thing that got her out of bed in the morning, because Emoji would crawl up her arm and lay on her, and she would take care of Emoji like it would be her baby. She, again, missed junior and senior a year, but that little gecko named Angel Moji healed her, gave her a reason to live. And it's just very inspirational. It's kind of chicken soup for the soul, but it goes a little bit deeper. And so, yeah, that's what this is about.
That's so
and
beautiful.
It covers a range from, there's a story about a duck, a gecko, bunnies, horses, cats and dogs are the most numerous. And cats are I saw your kitties. They're adorable.
Yes, they are.
They are, I think 88 million households have cats.
And they heal me, no doubt about it.
Yes.
As well as each other.
And they will need
Oh,
you
yeah.
and go to where you don't feel well, your tummy or your throat. I have 4
Yeah.
indoor and 2 outdoor, but my one little Leilani, she'll come up and she knows exactly where to go to give me healing. So yeah, they meet us. They meet us. They can come back to us, I believe, in one lifetime. In our lifetime, or sometimes they'll just stay and wait for us in the great beyond there, which is interesting. But I wanted to write a book on animals because people love their animals, and after 30 years of doing this work, I have more tears many times when the beloved kitty or a puppy comes in than I do a human soul, actually. That's how connected we are.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm just really curious what it's like for you to live with this gift on an everyday basis. Is it something that you can choose when you want to connect, or is it there all the time? And how do you manage that in your day-to-day life?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Because no one really teaches you how to open up or how to close up. So I developed a technique. It's called, don't laugh, the golden screw. So we have portals, and before a reading, after I pray, I'll open up a golden screw at the crown chakra, and then the third eye, the mouth region, the heart, the solar plexus, and down my body, the palms of my hands and the soles of my feet, and I can feel my soul coming up slightly as loved ones start to lower their frequency, to come down to say hello.
Yes.
Then when that's over, I screw the energy back in. In the very beginning, I didn't know how to protect. I mean, you're just not taught. So I would be out at a social function, and Grandpa David would be over there, come here, in his work pants. And then invariably the girl standing next to me would be his granddaughter. And then I would start doing a mini. And you just absolutely have to have control over this. It's like in the movie, I don't know if you've seen the movie Ghost with Whoopi Goldberg. She put the pillow on her head and said, please let me alone. Yeah, so it's a very self-disciplined, I don't know if you call it a job or a mission or whatever, but it is, because they're really anxious to talk to you. And then I've really learned how to become the referee. What's really interesting, they are prepped before they come through, the souls in heaven. And they're told how to circle around somebody. So I have an office where I do the readings, and souls on the left side would be mother's side always. On the right side always would be dad's side. And the soul in front would be a child that's passed. Behind would be in-laws, friends, or a spouse, someone directly not in the bloodline. So right away there's no guessing. They'll come in, they'll show me how they look, like a translucent look. They retain their personality. So if they don't give a name, they'll come in just like they were. Some souls bring food in, some joke, some come in straight-laced. If a grandmother was, a person of faith, she'll come in with the Bible. And of course, it's mutable there, but they want to retain enough personality so the person knows who they are.
Right.
And just like you, sometimes people feel warmth or they get chills.
Yes.
So yeah, from my perspective, it's a real roller coaster. It really is. I have to drink extra water. I have to get extra rest, take B vitamins. To whom much is given, much is required.
Yes.
So if you're given something like this to do, you really need to self-discipline.
Yeah, and take care of your own self first, so that
That's
can
right.
all flow through you and not drain your own energy.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yes. So good questions.
So now for people at home who have not had this experience before but are looking to develop it, what suggestions would you give?
Meditation is a good start, I would say. I started because I'm a visionary. Some people are not clairvoyant, they're clairaudient, we know that. They're empathic or clairsentient, and there's many forms of this, being a medium. But I would say go by your feelings, watch the shift of energy around you. You can create a little altar in your home where you put your loved ones' pictures. Usually when we think of them, it magnetizes their energy down. So there's different steps you can take. Awareness is the key. My one book, Miraculous Encounters, it actually states all the ways that you can enhance, your own abilities here in the back. Meditate, be patient, be thankful, create, an altar, be aware. I believe in the power of prayer, I really do. I think it's protective, and I think there's tremendous power in prayer. And so, yeah, that could be a whole course. Yeah, and you all seem very aware of what I'm saying and open.
Yeah, and
So-
it's different with who you're connecting to too. Like
Yes.
when I'm connecting with my son, he was 20 when he passed. It's okay. And so when I, within myself, say his name 3 times, I feel him coming from around me with his arms, and I get the sense of chills. when I'm connecting with my mom, who butterflies was her thing, I have a little floating butterfly thing behind the screen over there, and they start flitting around. So,
There you go.
so to me, they're always with me, and I still have the way that helped me heal is I feel like I still have a relationship with them. It's
Yes.
just at a different level now.
It is a different, it's like they're in the next room, you're here. And sometimes they'll go through the doorway and say hello. They will pull their energy down on your birthday. If you're ill, they want to lend you support or help or healing. If it's their birthday, holidays, they love to see us happy. So that's another way they pull their energy down. And there's things to do in heaven, so I don't think they're really attached to us all the time. But when we think of them, like you said, you can start to feel. It's wonderful.
I remember that you shared when I came to see you many years ago that they want to be invited to celebrations. So they don't want you to be sad that they're not there. Celebrate with them.
And many
Celebrate
times
with
they'll
them.
say, have a picnic. Labor Day's around the corner. I had one lady, and boy, did they retain their personality. So she, her thing that she made was called Heavenly Hash, the soul. I mean, the person when she was on Earth, and it's lime jello and pineapple and marshmallow. You probably, and it can get really funny because I remember I just did this last week. I don't remember any of the readings, but she wouldn't leave. She had a pantsuit on. And she brought her purse in, and she said, I forget who I was reading for, I think it was a young man, you really need to have a Labor Day picnic. And I know there's a pool in the back. He said, yeah, we have a pool. Well, I like to walk around that pool. And she was chatty, and she said, I'll bring the Heavenly Hash. She said, you flip the burgers. And she was talking about different family members. Please have this reunion. Many times when there's a wedding or we have a reunion, they'll pull their energy down. I think there were 8 souls. I get 8 to 10 sometimes that wait in line. And they all said, we're going to be there. And then Uncle, I forget his name, I think it was Harold. Uncle Harold said, I have other things to do in heaven. I'm not going to make this picnic. It can get really, really funny because the personalities of the souls that are retained. It really is something. And there's a lot of healing. Of course, because where are they? Where are they? Are they under the ground? Are they in the air? And so my mission really is to teach, just like you and Susan and Jose, to teach and to let people know you're not alone.
Yes.
And that you'll reconnect someday.
Yes.
I think that's the
very
comfort in
real.
it, right?
Yes,
is that
that's the
whole
healing.
message, yeah, you're not alone.
So Michelle, earlier you were talking about doing protective prayer. Can you expound on that a little bit and what it is and why it's important?
Well, there are so many empathic people that don't know they're empathic. And so one thing, and this is in Messages from Beyond, it's a guidebook, when you wake up in the morning, if you go to the mirror and visualize a dome of white light or golden light around you, and you say a positive affirmation, please protect me this day. Protect me physically, emotionally, and mentally, my auric field and my soul. Let me attract people for my highest good or situations for my highest good. And when people are negative, when people have problems, they don't mean to drain you. You're like a moth to a flame kind of feeling, But when they come at you, it will deflect off of you. If you visualize a dome of light around you, that's one way that you can protect. And I believe in positive affirmations. Thoughts are very powerful. So protection is key, and it's not just for empathic people. I always say, you wake up in the morning feeling pretty good, a lot of people, and you go about your day at work, whatever you do, and by 3 o'clock, you're so drained. Unknowingly, possibly people around you are dumping their energy in your space, or you unknowingly, because of your kind heart, are giving them maybe advice. And physically tired is very different from being spiritually drained.
Right, and you don't have to be.
You don't have to
You
be.
can learn. With Reiki, it's the same thing, just a little different way. I teach people how to build and radiate their light so that their light leads the way, knowing with every fiber of their being that anything less than light will be healed by the light or go away.
Yes.
And that is my intention, and so that is my truth.
That's perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. Yeah. So there's many things you can do to protect. the golden screw technique is for me as a medium.
love that. I love that.
The other thing you can really do for balance and grounding is if you uncross your legs and you're sitting like you are now, and you visualize a rod going from the base of your spine down to the center of the earth, and it just keeps going and going and going to the center of the earth. That's really a grounding technique. That'll balance you
Yeah,
too.
because when you're connected, you have to really be grounded consciously all the time. Yeah.
And I did a reading, and this is fresh in my mind because it was just a day or two ago. The girl was starting to hear unusual voices, and it was really bothering her. And some were robotic voices. She'd get up in the night, and she actually lost her job over it. But as I did the reading, they'll take me through the home sometimes, and they scanned her bedroom. And there was a collection of crystals. And crystals are wonderful, but they hold energy many times. And there's a DNA of cellular structure in each crystal. They work like antennas. If you think of the radio, that's what was happening. She's very open, and she'd wake up and she had like 25 crystals, and they were all pulling in different energies and voices, and maybe the people that were using them before to clear out the auric field weren't cleansing them. There's certain things you can do, like light and different things. She never cleansed them. She just collected them. And so hopefully I gave her a technique how to keep her soul in her body, because we astral travel. We're getting a little off the wavelength here, but that we can leave, in astral travel. And that's what she was doing. And she was getting to that frequency of all those different voices. And she was just on the edge.
Yeah, I bet.
So what came through from one of her spirit guides, put those crystals away for now. You can get them out later, and command your soul to stay in your body at night so you get your rest, your rapid eye movements. Yeah, so that was a little bit unusual. That was different. Isn't that different?
They're really different, yeah, but you're right.
Makes some
Crystals are
sense.
alive. They're natural from the earth, and
That's
they need to be
right.
cleansed and cleared because their job is
That's right.
energetic. Yeah.
Interesting. So
So, of your almost 7 books, which one is your favorite? And of the 6 books that has been already published, which one do you hear the most feedback from readers, and why? Like, what little tidbits do they share with you?
well, I love this one. This has my artwork in it, and I'm not Catholic, but the energy of Blessed Mother appeared in 1993 or 4. I did 12 paintings, and they were huge. They were about 30 by 40 inches. And they were in pastel and paint. And then later, I was told that there were symbols and to meditate upon, and there were lessons and meditations. So this is the only one, Visions from Mary, that contains paintings. So it's very dear to my heart. It took 5 years. It was my first book. But the most popular one of all of them will always be probably Messages from Beyond, because in it are contained positive affirmations, conscious manifestation, how to ward off negativity, animals, their consciousness in here. It's just, it's amazing what's in here. And people it's an easy read, and they just digest it. So I want to make an audio book of it.
Because it's by topic, right? So that you can
Yeah.
just look up the topic that you're
Yeah.
curious about. Yeah.
So even utilizing a method to stop smoking, releasing departed loved ones if they're in the hospital and they're lingering, you can go to them and hold their hand and say it's okay to let go. Go to the light, go in peace. It's so varied. Really. So yeah, this is my #1 little guidebook, and it's been revised 4 or 5 times. It started with a stapler with just a plain blue cover, and it's evolved over the years.
I love, though, that one of the chapters then in there is about going to those who are currently crossing over. Because I've known a lot of people who have done that when they've sat with their parents or a child or brother or sister and have given them permission and said, I'm okay if you go. And, you know, and I remember my father, when he was, they gave him about a month, he lasted 3 months, but doing that with him, I was trying to do Reiki and I was trying to do drums, and earlier on he was really, really angry about the whole thing, even though he wasn't quite conscious, you know, he just, but then towards the end it was just constantly saying like, it's okay, you know, it's okay. And I'm just, I'd like to, if you could share more about that, because I think that's such a powerful thing that people feel like they really want to do, and sometimes they're drawn to do it without even understanding it.
They are. And hospice workers, and you probably know this, have seen sometimes spirits, souls of the person leave. And there's a certain part of their face, you know, their ears go back, and right before they take their last breath. It's called the mask, and hospice workers have witnessed this. But the greatest thing you can do for another human being is to let them release and give them permission to let go. And there's a tunnel technique too, that you can visualize the person. Let's say it's your beloved mother. My mother was down to 64 pounds. She did not eat. She just refused to eat. And I did the same thing with her because she lingered week after week in that condition. So you visualize the person, you take their hand, even if you're not a visionary, but try to see them. Think of the connecting tunnel. Some have rainbow sparkles or like amethyst. You would love a purple amethyst.
I can visualize it
sapphire
already.
blues. And you walk them down. You know, you walk them down. And as you're walking them down, you'll see a pinpoint of light that starts to get bigger and brighter. And you say to them, you've lived a good life. It's okay to let go. Go to the light. Go in peace. Whatever. Here, your relatives are waiting. And in the distance, I personally see little silhouettes or light bodies waiting. And then the light starts to get bigger and brighter and bigger and brighter. And then you let go of their hand and you drift back into your body. You can do it before you go to sleep at night, this exercise. And they stay closer to the light, and they usually pass within 24 to 48 hours. Usually.
Chills.
Yeah. And it's a wonderful, like I said, gift to do for someone. People have a fear. It's the two greatest fears are public speaking and the fear of death. Yes. Two greatest fears.
Yes.
So to do that for someone and to give them permission because they're afraid or they're proud, and there are cases even where they'll linger. They'll wait, not all the time, but they'll wait till the family goes to get coffee if they're in a nursing home, and then they pass. If it's a gentleman with pride, he doesn't want the last memory to be of him taking his last breath. So we all have a different view of things, and that's a wonderful thing now, if you can do that. The tunnel technique's wonderful.
That's great.
Yeah.
As my mom was getting ready to pass, hospice was in, and I remember she asked the question, which they couldn't answer, how will I know when I died? And I
Oh,
thought
boy.
that was such a great question.
It is a great question.
Yeah.
And you feel lighter from what living in the afterlife says. And you can, you've heard about the near-death experience. Someone's in the operating table and they're actually looking down, observing everything. They know conversations when they come back. So we rise above, we look down at our body, and some have see pinpoints of light. It could be golden light, blue is a good color, blue light. Our angels can come to help us to cross, or our loved ones. And we go up and out, and bright blinding light, and then the loved ones and the pets. And then there's different scenarios or cases of people, as I said, that have committed crimes or overdose. It's not an evil thing to have an accidental overdose, or a bad thing, but they get a little disoriented. And the other thing is that you mentioned, Susan, was interesting about it takes a while. If someone has Alzheimer's, for example, or dementia many times, their soul is coming and going. So when they're lucid, the soul is firmly implanted. When they're mumbling, the soul is out. So because of them being disoriented towards the end, it takes them sometimes a while to adjust. It's the mental thing, it's the spiritual thing. They're not, and it's not everyone, but they're not quite sure where they are. So angels come for them. They go through the life review, and you have to remember there's no time.
Yes,
In the other
right,
realms,
right,
time
right.
is man-made here.
Yes, absolutely.
So in a blink of an eye, they can be over 5 years, or 3 years, or 3 months. Blink of an eye.
Yeah, I used to joke around with that with spirit guides and they'd be like, "Oh, soon." I'm like, "Haha, that's all relative to you."
Absolutely, it's not our time. It's not in the third dimensional world. But yeah. So.
Michelle, thank you so much.
Oh,
Thank
this
you.
was
This has
fascinating.
been delightful. I know we kind of went around the circle from a medium, but I so enjoyed it. It was
Thank you
wonderful.
very much,
Great
Michelle.
questions.
Great to see you again.
Nice to meet you, and thank you so much.
And thank you so much for joining us today on Soul Sessions. I hope you continue the journey with us.